Alright, so folks, I have a question for y'all. What is the area of a square? How do you calculate the area of a square?
Base times height.
What?
Base times height.
How about length times width? So if I have a square, right, and it happens to be 30 feet by 30 feet, right, how many square feet are inside of that? 30 times 30. 0, 0, 0, 3 times 3 is 9. Add it up, 900 square feet. Okay? Easy peasy. All right, good. Now let's try a different one. Let's try 30 by 50 feet. How many square feet are in that? 1,500. So we got 50 times 30, multiply it out, 0, 0, 15, 1,500. Okay? So now it gets more complicated than that. So now what happens if I have a shape that is something like this? How big is that? Let's put some parameters on it. Let's say that this is 30 feet, and let's say that this is 55 feet. How do I know how big that is?
You have to do the triangle, and then you have to find the area of a triangle, like, so you can't get.
So well, maybe that's an intermediate step that we should be taking, right? So let's do this. Let's do a triangle, right? So let's say that this triangle is 30 feet by 30 feet. How many square feet are in that? It's easy. 450 feet. Now, how did you come up with that so quickly?
Divided 30 by 30 by 2.
Right, so 30 by 30, right, basically that is half, it's half of it, right? Same thing here, 30 by 50, divided in half. This triangle is the same size as that one, right? So this is half of that. So in that triangle right there is 1,500 divided by 2 is 750. Okay? Now that works great for a right triangle. All right? It won't necessarily work great for a triangle that's not a right angle. Okay? So as long as it has a 90-degree corner, you can come up with the area. Okay? So, now, you guys all know that AutoCAD and Rhino will give you the area of something, right? Rhino is kind of a pain in the butt because it's going to give it to you in square inches, right? And then you got to divide by 144 to get how many square feet it is, right? But AutoCAD will tell you in square feet or in square inches, either way. Okay? So that's one way to go about it. But one of the things that you can do is if this shape, right, fits sort of like this, what could we surmise? Let's say that this is that. What could we surmise about the square footage of that shape if this one is 1,500? Any thoughts?
It's about 1,500.
It's close. I mean, that is probably not much different than that. And that's probably a little bit less than this. And so it's pretty easy to say that shape right there is about 1,500. Nobody should ever confuse this for 3,000 square feet. Okay? So if you have a shape that might be like that, okay, one quick, easy way to get pretty close is by eyeballing it. So if I draw a rectangle that's shaped like that, and say that rectangle happens to come out to 50 feet by 100 feet, would you guys say that those two shapes have about the same area? Let's say within 10% of each other. Pretty close, huh? So one quick way to do it is to basically say, all right, well, I'm going to draw a square or a rectangle over top of it, which makes it very easy to calculate the area. Okay? Now, if you have a triangle, for example, that maybe is shaped like this, right? So, going on to other ways of calculating area, if you draw a line down it that makes it into a 90-degree right there, then you can take this length, so that, let's call this L1, and this is L2, and say L1 times L2 divided by 2 equals the area of that. And likewise, if this is L3, then you could say L2 times L3 divided by 2 equals the area of that. Okay? Does that make sense? So one of the things that you guys are being asked for in your project brief, okay, so we're looking at your project brief, and it says, it has some areas in it, right? So it says, your overall footprint of your overhangs is 3,000 square feet, right? So, all right, now, what if I want to come up with something, how do I come up with a shape that's 3,000 square feet? Who's got a calculator? Who's got a calculator? Come on, quick. I saw you guys with your calculators a minute ago. So take 3,000. All of you get your calculator out right now. Everybody get your phone out, call up the calculator. Okay? And turn it sideways so it gives you the scientific one. You might have to do that. Okay? Now take 3,000 and then find that little button that looks like this. Okay, now you might have to push this first and then type in 3,000. So what's this called? Right here. The square root. Okay? So now we all have your calculators out, so push the square root of 3,000. What is it?
54.7.
So the square root of 3,000 equals what?
54.7.
54.7 feet. Okay? So that gives us a square. I'm hoping that can see that. So a square that is 54.7 by 54.7, right, is going to give us 3,000 square feet. What if we didn't want a square? What if we want a rectangle? So if we had a rectangle, and let's say instead of 54, we want that to be 45. Okay? And we want this to be 3,000 square feet. How do I determine this length? We've been through this. It's really easy. So, what do I use to determine this length right here? L question mark. How do you determine the area of a square or a rectangle?
Multiply.
You multiply it length times width, right? So what's the inverse of multiplication? Division. So you take 3,000 divided by 45 equals, who's got a calculator? 66.6. So 45 by 66.6 gives you 3,000 square feet. That make sense? Okay? You guys are going to have to do this because I'm going to ask you to come back, right, with rectangles that are the size of these areas. Okay? So if you look at these, you're being told that the overall overhang of everything is 3,000 square feet. The covered entry porch area needs to be 500. The covered outdoor waiting area needs to be 1,000. Okay? The enclosed area needs to be 1,500. So add that up. What's that come out to?
6,000.
500 plus 1,000 is? What's 500 plus 1,000?
1,500.
And what is 1,500 plus 1,500?
3,000.
3,000 square feet. So if the whole thing is 3,000, then you've got a porch at one end, right? That's 500, and you've got another porch at the other end that's 1,000. That leaves the part in the middle that's not. Okay? All right. I'm going to stop this video.